This is ASMR News. Drift off, wake up, or simply relax with the world's biggest headlines.
Joe Biden is projected to become President-elect of the United States. With over 90% of the votes counted across the country, Biden leads in the popular vote by 50.5% to 47.7% for Donald Trump. However, in the US, the president is formally selected by the Electoral College, a group of 538 individuals nominated by the political parties in each state, and 270 electoral votes are required to win. Based on current vote counts, Biden appears likely to easily exceed this number, potentially receiving 306 electoral votes to Trump's 232. The Electoral College meets on December 14 to formally ratify the election results. In the meantime, it is likely the election results will become clear this weekend as the states complete the vote tabulation process. In addition, Kamala Harris claims a historic victory, becoming the first woman, the first person of Asian descent, and the first black person to be elected vice president, the second highest office in the United States. Harris is of mixed Indian and Jamaican heritage. Since 2016, she has been a U.S. Senator from California after serving as the California Attorney General. She is a graduate of Howard University and the University of California's Hastings College of Law. Several key allies appeared reluctant to condemn President Trump's claims of victory on Wednesday, instead of vowing to retain close ties with Washington, regardless of who wins the vote. Trump said he had beaten Joe Biden and made allegations without providing evidence that his supporters were being disenfranchised. When pressed on Trump's statements, British Foreign Minister Dominic Raab refused to condemn them. Instead, he struck a neutral tone and said he had full faith in the U.S. institutions, the checks and balances in the U.S. system that will produce a definite result. The United Kingdom's relationship with the United States was in great shape, he added. We're confident that it will go on from strength to strength whichever candidate wins the election. In Germany, government spokesman Stefan Seibert struck a neutral tone and would only say that Germany has confidence in the democratic tradition and the constitutional institutions of the United States of America. Mississippi voters approved a new state flag featuring a magnolia flower to replace the Confederate battle symbol in Tuesday's election by a margin of 70%. Up to 1 million protesters in Poland have marched for 14 nights, enraged by a near-total ban on abortion that has stirred a generation to stage the largest mass demonstrations that Poland has seen since Solidarność toppled the communist regime in the 1980s. The protests, led by the grassroots women's movement OSK, or All Polish Women Strike, have shocked the ruling conservatives and created a new political fault line that, analysts say, could spell more serious problems for the ruling party. Ivorian opposition leader and former Prime Minister Pascal Affi-N'Guessan was arrested for creating a rival government after President Alassane Ouattara's election victory. Prosecutors in Ivory Coast are pursuing terrorism charges against more than a dozen opposition leaders who boycotted the 31st of October vote, in which Ouattara won a third term. The standoff has raised fears of protracted instability in the world's top cocoa producer, whose disputed 2010 presidential election led to a brief civil war. More than 40 people have died in clashes before and since the last vote. An 18-year-old woman in the Dutch city of Rotterdam was arrested on suspicion of making online threats against a high school teacher who had displayed in his classroom a cartoon supporting Charlie Hebdo, the French satirical newspaper that had originally published caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. Last month, a teacher in France was beheaded for showing caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad to his class. Local media also reported that another teacher was threatened after he showed a cartoon depicting Muhammad during a class about free speech at a high school in the city of Den Bosch. Attacks against Afghan security forces and civilians increased by 50% in the third quarter of 2020. In February, the US and the Taliban agreed that foreign troops would leave Afghanistan by May 2021 in exchange for guarantees from the Taliban, including that they would not attack US and other coalition troops. The United States formally left the Paris Agreement on climate change. The move further isolates the US in the world but has no immediate impact on international efforts to curb global warming. The Paris Accord, signed by 189 countries, aims to keep the increase in average temperatures worldwide well below 2 degrees Celsius, 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, ideally no more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, compared to pre-industrial levels. Scientists say that any rise beyond 2 degrees Celsius could have a major impact on large parts of the world, raising sea levels, increasing tropical storms, and worsening droughts and floods. At least 100 people are dead and thousands have been evacuated after Tropical Storm Depression Ida slammed into Central America, flooding homes and bringing devastating landslides. The storm currently has 35 miles per hour, 75 kilometers per hour winds, and re-entered the Caribbean and is forecast to pass over Cuba by Sunday morning and then head toward the Florida Keys or South Florida late Sunday. Tropical storm watches were issued for South Florida and the Bahamas. Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Jimenez declared a state of emergency Friday as the county monitors the storm's track. The county may experience heavy rain and gusty winds through the weekend, with rainfall expected to range between 6 and 10 inches or 15 to 25 centimeters over the weekend. One of the world's largest icebergs is on a collision course with the island of South Georgia, potentially threatening a rich ecosystem of wildlife, including penguins, seals, and krill. If the 4,700 square kilometer, 1,815 square mile mass, greater than South Georgia itself, stays on its current path and reaches the island shores, scientists fear it could have a devastating effect on its wildlife populations for years to come by blocking seals and penguins from being able to access their normal feeding grounds at a time of year that is crucial for the colony's growth. The second largest great white shark ever seen has been spotted off the coast of Florida after a several thousand-mile migration. Unamaki was first tagged in Nova Scotia in September. In the indigenous language of the Mi'kmaq people, her name means land of the fog. With a length of 15 feet and 5 inches, 4.7 meters, and a weight of 2,076 pounds, 942 kilograms, she is the second largest white shark ever tagged by OSearch, a non-profit organization that tags and tracks large marine animals. China accused the United States of sending out wrong signals to Taiwan after the Trump administration notified Congress that it approved the sale of $600 million in armed drones to the island. China will take legitimate and necessary responses in light of the changing circumstances, said Wang Wenbin, spokesman of China's foreign ministry. TikTok censored videos related to incidents in Xinjiang to avoid promoting conflict, an executive at the short-form video app told UK lawmakers this week. TikTok, which is owned by Beijing-based ByteDance, has said in the past that it doesn't remove content based on sensitivities related to China. A day after the US surpassed 100,000 new cases of the coronavirus in a single day, it set a new record with 121,200 new cases on Thursday, straining hospitals in areas of the Midwest and South as they struggle to cope with an influx of patients. In the last week, the US has averaged 96,231 cases a day, an increase of 54% over the average of 2 weeks ago. Data show 13 states posted record case numbers on Thursday, including Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Minnesota, Iowa, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and North Dakota. The U.S. has now registered over 10 million cases, with 242,000 deaths. India follows with 8.5 million cases, and Brazil has 5.6 million cases. Worldwide, there are almost 50 million confirmed cases, with 1.25 million deaths. White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who abided by President Trump's efforts to play down the coronavirus throughout the summer, has contracted the virus. Meadows tested positive for the virus on Wednesday. In addition, 4 other White House officials tested positive. One White House official said people were told to keep quiet about the various cases. The Italian regions worst hit by the second coronavirus wave entered a new lockdown on Friday after the country tallied its highest daily number of both infections and deaths the previous day. Italy is under a 10 p.m. to a 5 a.m. nationwide curfew, with bars and restaurants closing at 6 p.m., while certain areas face harsher restrictions. Residents in red zone regions may only leave home for necessities, health, or work. Those in orange zones are banned from leaving their towns except for work or health reasons, and bars and restaurants are closed except for delivery and takeout. Italy reported 35,505 new cases and 445 deaths Thursday, taking its case total to 824,879 and fatalities to 40,192. Paris announced stricter measures as the country reported a record 58,046 new cases Thursday. France has Europe's highest case number at 1.6 million infections. From Friday, Food delivery, takeout, and alcohol sales are banned in Paris between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Germany registered more than 20,000 COVID-19 cases in a single day for the first time. The rise comes amid renewed efforts to curb the spread of the virus that on Thursday saw 21,506 new infections, an increase of more than 1,600 compared to the previous day. Greece announced a nationwide lockdown, hoping to stem a rising tide of patients before its hospitals come under unbearable pressure. Police arrested 7 people accused of offering fake negative COVID-19 test certificates to departing passengers at Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. The 6 men and 1 woman were found to have more than 200 counterfeit certificates on their mobile phones, which would have been sold for up to €300 each. The fake certificates bore the names of real Parisian medical laboratories. Some airlines and destinations now require passengers to show a recent negative test certificate under tighter immigration rules. The 7 had been running an unlicensed business as luggage wrappers, but that had suffered when passenger numbers crashed in the coronavirus pandemic. They face charges of forgery and fraud, which carry a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison and a €375,000 fine. Denmark defended its decision to kill 17 million minks after the World Health Organization downplayed fears of a mutated coronavirus strain whose discovery precipitated the move. As of Thursday, 216 mink farms in the country were infected, and all remaining minks would be culled in line with animal welfare guidelines in the coming weeks. Denmark has a total of around 300 mink farms. Somali Dr. Abdullahi Shaikhdandini opened Mogadishu's first private advanced diagnostic laboratory in January. Since then, Medipark Diagnostics, which he runs with 5 other doctors who pooled $1 million to buy equipment, has become a linchpin of the country's creaking donor-supported health infrastructure. Hospitals in the battle-scarred city that once had to wait weeks for blood test results now use the lab to test for conditions including HIV and hepatitis. Britain raised its terror threat level to severe, its second highest level following attacks in Austria and France. Severe means an attack is considered highly likely. The level had previously been at substantial, meaning an attack is thought to be likely. The decision came after a man who had previously tried to join the Islamic State group killed 4 people in Vienna before police shot and killed him. The government said the increased security alert was a precautionary measure and is not based on any specific threat. Erich Zettler, Vienna's anti-terror chief, is being suspended at his own request after revelations of intelligence failings in the murder of 4 people. Austrian authorities were told in July that the suspect had tried to buy ammunition in Slovakia, and they now admit the gunman met 2 people from Germany who were already under observation. In a further development, a mosque and a mosque association frequented by the subject, which Integration Minister Suzanne Raab said had contributed to his radicalization, have been closed. The EU imposed on Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko and 14 other officials, including Lukashenko's son, over their roles in the security crackdown launched during protests of the country's contested August presidential election. The sanctions banned listed individuals from traveling within the European Union and froze their assets. EU citizens and companies also are forbidden from providing them with funds. Protests have rocked Belarus ever since the election, and more than 15,000 people in the country have been arrested. Russian legislators submitted a draft bill that could grant former presidents lifelong immunity from criminal prosecution beyond their terms of office. Under current Russian law, presidents can no longer be prosecuted for crimes committed while in office. The proposed change seeks to extend the immunity beyond their terms of office, so it would apply to offenses committed in President Putin's lifetime. Ethiopia launched airstrikes against the forces of the country's well-armed Tigray region, asserting that the strikes in multiple locations completely destroyed rockets and other heavy weapons and made it impossible for a retaliatory attack, marking an escalation that could turn into civil war. There was no immediate response from the Tigray government, while the region is increasingly boxed in by movement restrictions and a 6-month state of emergency imposed by the federal government. The military operations were launched early Wednesday after the Prime Minister accused the Tigray government of a deadly attack on a military base. He asserted that months of patiently trying to resolve differences with the regional government have failed because of the leadership's criminal hubris and intransigence. With that, the Prime Minister appeared to close the door on dialogue, which some experts and diplomats say is desperately needed. One of India's most well-known and controversial news anchors was arrested for allegedly abetting the suicide of an architect in a case that reflects the country's increasingly fraught and politicized media environment. Ashok Dubey, Superintendent of Police of Raigad district in the western state of Maharashtra, confirmed that Arnab Goswami, the face and founder of right-wing broadcaster Republic TV, was arrested for allegedly abetting a suicide, a crime that under the Indian Penal Code carries a possible 10-year prison sentence in India. Goswami and 2 others were remanded to judicial custody late Wednesday night, according to a court order. Brazilian pianist João Carlos Martins returned to play his favorite Bach sonatas thanks to bionic gloves after not playing with 10 fingers since he lost the use of his right hand in a 1995 mugging in Bulgaria. The gloves have rods that make the fingers spring back up after they depress the keys and allow the pianist to continue playing. Bangladesh's first religious school for transgender people has opened in its capital, Dhaka. More than 150 students will study Islamic and vocational subjects free of charge at the privately funded seminary or madrasa. Many in the transgender community identify as a third gender, which is now officially recognized in the country. They have the right to vote and to stand for election, but conservative social attitudes still make it hard for them to access jobs and education. South Africa has begun deporting 20 refugees and asylum seekers who were demanding to be resettled outside Africa. They were part of a months-long sit-in protest against xenophobia. Their sit-in began outside the offices of the UN's refugee agency, UNHCR, in Cape Town in October 2019. Hundreds of people took part in the protest campaign, which lasted 5 months, and saw the migrants occupy a church where they were given refuge. The migrants said they did not feel safe because of xenophobic attacks in South Africa's townships, and that they were treated poorly and discriminated against. A man has been arrested in connection with the massacre of 9 Mormon American-Mexican citizens on a remote dirt road in northwestern Mexico last year. The man is a member of a criminal organization with a presence in the north of Mexico and is likely a participant in the events that occurred in the November 4, 2019 killings of the 3 women and 6 children in Mexico's Sonora state, the Mexican Attorney General's office said. 8 other children survived the assaults, including a baby found hidden in one vehicle and a 13-year-old boy who walked 14 miles to seek help. Johnny Depp was asked to resign from the Fantastic Beasts film franchise after losing a libel case over a newspaper article which called him a wife-beater. Warner Brothers confirmed Depp's departure and said his role would be recast. "We thank Johnny for his work on the films to date," it said. Depp had sued the publisher of the Sun newspaper over a 2018 article which claimed he assaulted his ex-wife Amber Heard. Earlier this week, a judge ruled the newspaper had proved the article to be substantially true. While this week's update is unable to include the latest results, here is a summary of sports news for the week. Southampton and Liverpool are atop the Premier League with 16 points each. Bayern München and Borussia Dortmund lead the Bundesliga, also with 16 points each. Paris Saint-Germain leads the French League 1 with 21 points. AC Milan tops the Italian Serie A with 16 points. And Real Sociedad leads La Liga with 17 points. Lewis Hamilton, winner of 9 races this year, continues to lead the Formula One standings with 282 points, followed by Valtteri Bottas with 197 points and Max Verstappen with 162 points. Primož Roglič leads Richard Carapaz by 45 seconds in La Vuelta, followed by Hugh John Carthy, Daniel Martin, and Enric Mas. In college football, the rankings remained unchanged, with Clemson at number 1, followed by Alabama, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Georgia.
This is ASMR.